For next 40 to 50 minutes, we are targeted to have the quick demo, or I can say kind of introduction for the AWS certification. So we are going to talk about more AWS Certified Solution Architect, that is mainly in the associate stream. So we are going to go learn what are the course contents are covered, what is really targeted if someone is certified with the solution architect kind of the certification level. It's not only on the certification point of view, so even if you get into any job, what is expected from you. So before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Suresh. It's almost 15 years in IT now. So initially I was more into IT infra and infra security part, and from last 9 years, I am specifically working on the cloud. So initially, I was started with the AWS when it was released to the market, and later I also started to work on Azure, and I also work for some part on GCP. So I work as a solution architect for one of the company where we mainly get engaged with the clients for various projects. Categorically, it's like migrating on-premises cloud on premises to the cloud, be it AWS or Azure. And we also help customers in terms of fine tuning their existing environment, consultation in terms of security and security fine tuning. Training, that's something, it's kind of a hobby I take, sometimes weekend as well as the weekdays, just to refresh and share my learnings with others, right? And even I wanted to take your introduction as well, but since we have very limited time, so we will take it as we go with. Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. Now, from the AWS point of view, there are multiple certification streams which start with as practitioner. So there is AWS developer certification, and then the which is the widely used one, on widely appeared one. It is AWS Certified Solution Architect. Now, within the AWS Certified Solution Architect, there are two streams. One is associate, the other one is the professional. So generally, we are having basic understanding of IT and also basic understanding of AWS. So we recommend to go through AWS Certified Solution Architect associate stream. But if someone is having experience of 10 plus, or at least having experience of cloud with 2+ years, so we recommend them to go with the professional. Now the key difference from associate to professional certification is the associate. It's more like the straightforward questions, I can say. So the scenario based questions are, it's less. But when you go for professional, it's more like a scenario based questions, and it is more like solutioning point of view, right? So there's a main difference. Now getting into the course, the content distribution. So if you look at overall 100% marks of this certification, so this is distributed like this, and this is again the official document from the AWS itself. So we have total 4 domains. Okay, so you are analyzed your capability on these 4 areas in the high level. So it's very high level terms: design resilient architecture, design high performance architecture, security, mainly secure application and architecture, then the cost optimization part, right? Now in the design resilient architecture, so we cover mainly the AWS infrastructure part, how it is designed, how they maintain the availability in terms of any disaster. So like we discuss about availability zones, edge locations, region edge caches. So we also discuss about how it is connected each other, right? So then we will discuss about the setting up your own network design. Now, when you set up a cloud, so the first thing you will always set up, landing zone, something we call it is in the generic term. So when I say landing zone, it's like you're setting up your entire network. So that is in terms of AWS, it is a VPC, right? So you need to have a network, you need to have a different subnets. So you need to have a network traffic control using the security groups within the subnet. So all those aspects it's discussed here. The later, so we will also discuss about DNS. That is mainly the Route 53 part. DNS, it's nothing but, for example, if you had, I think there is some background noise. I request guys to be muted. There's no question. Yeah, thank you. Fine. So Route 53, we will take some scenario here. I'll discuss it. So this is mainly for DNS for high level now. So DNS is nothing but if you hit www.dominos.com, the dominos.com is the DNS, right? So we will learn how we can buy our DNS, our own DNS name, and how we can configure that DNS for diverting traffic from DNS name to your actual application, right? So then the CloudFront, this is mainly the caching service. So when I say caching service, so if you have a static content in your website, so it can be cached across AWS edge location, we call it as. So it means, for example, if you're hosting your application in India, Mumbai location, if someone is accessing from the US, you no need to reach till the India data center, right? So your content will be cached nearest region to the user. So you can directly access, the nearest region in the US itself. So that is something Amazon Cloud. Then the disaster recovery. So it's mainly comes when, the extreme case where the entire AWS data center is collapsing. For example, there is a flood or there is some fire or due to some reason if AWS entire data center is collapsed, still you can have access from the different regions. So generally the AWS has got multiple data center within the single region. For example, India, they call it as a one region, it is Mumbai. So then they have in Singapore, they have in Japan, they have in the Europe, there are different data centers. So for any reason, if it's completely, all the data center in India collapsed, you can still run it from, other locations, Singapore. It can be a seamless. So when I say seamless, so it is just with few click of mouse or just with, even automatic failover we can create, right? So that's something we are going to discuss. And this is something required in extreme, critical business scenarios. So then we have the architecture part. Now the latest the architecture whatever we're discussing, so these are all decoupled architecture, we call it as either event driven architecture. So they have uh, the scaling feature the based on the user load. So in the earlier age what we used to do is, let's take you have a 5,000 users connecting to your server, and moment if you are expecting 6,000 users, what you used to do is you did increase number of CPU and memory, right? But with the advanced architecture, so we will not increase, CPU and memory on the same instance. Rather, we add one more server, right? So such kind of, decoupled, you know, the architecture we are going to discuss about. Then AWS storage services. These are mainly, like blobs or block storage or file storage, those kind of things. So next we have domain 2. So here we will discuss about high performing architecture. Okay, so we'll focus more on networking and the compute part here. So we discuss about auto scaling. So it's mainly for, scale the number of servers based on the load. So let's take there is a Black Friday occasion, right? So there will be a lot of transaction going to happen. So even in the e-commerce site, even bank site or in the payment gateway, right? So such scenario, so you cannot keep number of servers pre-created, right? So because as soon as number of users increases, the CPU and memory requirement will increase. But keeping it already up running, it might end up you're paying more to the AWS. So instead of that, you can have something called auto scaling. Now, what does this auto scaling does is, so it will see what is the number of user sessions are coming, and you can set the threshold. For example, if there are 100 users, okay, so it can run with the 2 instance. If it is a 200, it can automatically add 2 more servers. If it is a 300, so it can automatically add 2 more servers. So automatically it can grow the number of servers, and it can also shrink it back. So let's take number of users are reducing back to the 100. So running 6 servers, 7 servers doesn't make sense, right? So you can shrink automatically to 2 servers, right? So in the cloud point of view, it's everything cost. I mean, if you take on premises generally, so the servers are already bought and it is just lying on your data center. So you really not much worry about cost, right? But when it comes to AWS, so each and every minute of consumption is calculated. So when you get a bill at the end of the month, so you will be shown with how much you consumed. So it's very easy to management, the respective company management to ask, why this much is consumed. So if you're not running your application in optimized way, so there would be question on your scape. So there would be question on your capability, right? So we should be very cautious how to run our environment. So that's something we learn on the auto scaling part. Then we will learn about individual services, like we have a compute, like servers, EC2, we have a ECS, then we have a Beanstalk, right? EC2 is a normal IaaS, ECS is the container. Then Elastic Beanstalk, it's more on PaaS-based of services. Then we will discuss about storage, that is mainly Elastic File System and Amazon S3, right? So these are kind of network storage. Then we will discuss about the networking part, right? Which it's very important topic in the AWS, starting with subnets, CNIs, CNAs, NACL, the security group, the NAT gateways, bastion host, VPC endpoints, VPN, direct connect, transit gateway. So we'll also discuss about the global accelerator. Then we will discuss about databases. So there are PaaS-based databases, RDS. So we will discuss about that. So then high availability, we will discuss about DynamoDB as well as the Amazon Aurora, right? That is on domain two. So I'm just pausing here. So if any questions, you can just raise it. I'm happy to answer.
Yes, Suresh, good morning. So Vikram here.
Hi, good morning, Vikram.
So I just had a one query in the first domain thing. So what do you call like decoupled and event-driven architecture? Do you have any services which you can give as an instance in the AWS resources for this, or it is a general architecture where we can just explain over?
Yeah. So when you say decoupled, so it's mainly talks about auto scaling part. Whether you increase
Yep,
number of
yep.
instances or decrease. So that is
Like
decoupled. When it is comes to, yeah,
yeah, horizontal and this scaling, right? Auto scaling.
exactly. So so we call it as horizontal scaling. Yeah. So in the horizontal scaling, you add number of servers. So that is exactly what decoupled is. When it comes to in the earlier stage, right? So in the traditional way, we used to scale up. So like existing instance itself, we used to increase number of CPU and memory. So
Okay,
that was
like
the old way
in
of
this case, you're
handling.
just giving us a the overview of legacy and the current cloud architecture, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So even we are going to do a hands-on of it. We are going to see a live application which is auto scaling. So we're
Okay,
going to do the
okay.
hands-on of it.
Yeah, got it.
Then
Thank you.
when it comes to event-driven architecture, there is something called Lambda we have, or S3. So these are all serverless architecture. So we can run those based on the event. For example, let's take you have an application which is generating CSV files on daily basis, right? And
Yeah.
if you have some existing scripts which is converting this CSV into database tables, right? The normal cases it might be handling through some jobs or task scheduler, but in the AWS you can run it on the serverless architecture like Lambda. So Lambda can get a trigger as soon as someone is uploading CSV file, right? Then it can process the data, it can structure it, and it can feed to the database. So that's mainly the event driven kind of. So as soon as you upload something, it will detect. Or there might be different scenarios. If someone is uh, trying to do some attack on your cloud, right? So based on that event, all the necessary actions can be triggered. So that's all comes under event.
So you meant to say like even DDoS attacks also you can,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The next thing, so design secure application and architecture. So here we discuss more on security part, the identity and access management, how we can provide access to various teams or various team members, right? So in terms of their work role, someone may be network administrator within the cloud, someone may be taking care of security, someone may be taking care of just monitoring. So we can have a different level of access and assign. So we learn how we can create the roles, how we can create users, how we can integrate AWS with external identity providers like Active Directory, right? The next thing, the cognitive. So we will discuss about some of the cognitive services. So then we have AWS organization. This is like in case if you have a larger, the enterprise accounts. I mean, if there are multiple AWS account, how you can manage them, right? So there is a concept AWS organization. So you can have a the key user who is taking care of all the AWS account. So that kind of control we can have. We are going to discuss about that. Then more the traffic security. I mean, the when data in the transit, how it can be secured, right? So we can have a WF. We are going to discuss about web application firewall. So we are going to discuss about firewall manager. Then there is also another service called Shield, right? So then we'll also discuss about the logging part. This is also very important from the security point of view. The company, if they have a the compliance requirement like PCI DSS or other security one. So the basic requirement would be you need to retain the logs. The logs may be related to your audit, the whatever the transaction you do across in the AWS services or in the inside the application itself. So AWS provides a mechanism to store your all the edit logs, all your transaction logs, error logs, which can be analyzed as and when, or it can be analyzed during forensic analysis. So that's something we are going to discuss. Then same thing, audit, monitor, evaluate, and there are services called AWS Config and Cloud Trial, which we are going to discuss with the hands-on. So we will also discuss about KMS. The KMS is a key management system. Like in your application, there will be a multiple authentication way, right? So one, it is plain username and password, which is not allowed to use nowadays. The other option is communicating through the certificates. Now, when you have a certificate, so it's going to be stored in the both end, right? The receiver as well as the transmitter end, right? So now those certificates can be secured in the KMS. So you can store it in the KMS and you can call the KMS whenever it's really required, right? The next thing, so in the fourth module, so design optimized architecture. So here we will discuss about how you can run your entire application on much optimal way. When I say optimal way, so it should not be overshooting your budget, and even it's not compromising your security requirements. So generally there is always a battle between security and the cost, right? Where security will see all security point of view, where your the cost will see run your application in the best cheaper way. So there is always a battle. So you need to balance that. So you should know how to run your application in the better way. So using the various features within the AWS. For example, so if you have a very large number of data files and if you want to store it in AWS, so you should know which storage to use. So whether to put it on S3 or whether to put it on Glacier or whether to put it on EFS or any other AWS solution, right? So then there are saving plans. So there are way to subscribe for your instances. So it can be on demand or it can be saving plans or it can be a reserved instance. So you need to put them in right place. I mean, based on your requirements. So let's take example. you have a production server which is committed to run for 1 year. So you can go for something called reserved instance model. You will get a 40% discount upfront. But if you go for on demand, which is comes as a by default, so it would be, you will be getting charged more. Now, if you don't know those, options, if you're right away going with everything default, that will, overshoot your budget. So then we'll also discuss about the networking optimization part. So there are a couple of questions. Let me answer. What are the major difference that we see between Azure and AWS? Now, the in term of overall comparison, it's almost same. I mean, so only the terms gets changed here and there. The cost also they're almost neck to neck. But in terms of number of services, there are slight difference. For example, the key services are it's almost same. When I say key services, the network, your compute, your security tools, right? So these are all almost common. But some extra services, let's say you want to have an Active Directory, right? Where AWS provided Active Directory, which is recently published and it is just getting matured. But when it goes to the Azure, since it's a Microsoft product, they are already there in the Active Directory in the ages, right? So maybe it's more than I think 3 decades or 4 decades now. So their Azure AD is much better way. There are a lot of options, right? Now again in the Azure, so they also provide a lot of SaaS services. They have a SharePoint, they have a O365, right? So now even it gets integrated with the user endpoint services like Teams on your OneDrive. So on those perspective, it is seamless. Now that's only the main difference. But yeah, so in terms of overall, it's almost same. So even cost, you cannot see much difference. How moves AWS or Oracle PLSQL developer? Please suggest. Now, yeah. So now there are two, the stream like development stream and in terms of architect stream. Now, if you want to get into the developer understanding, so you need to certainly understand the architecture part of it, right? So it is more important to understand on the architecture, then you can get into the developer part. However, the developer you can look like, it's a very basic kind of role, but you should know the design part. So you should have a hands-on. Now the difference is when you go for developer, so most of the work you do through the API calls, right? So designing AWS API gateway, integrating your IoT devices, kind of DevOps pipeline creating. So those are all comes in the developer role. But if you don't know the entire services in detail, it's very difficult. So it's recommended to get into the normal certification first. I mean through the management console, what we discussed, the later getting into the development kind of work. Okay, so now this entire training, there's a question during the course, will we get to operate on AWS? That is correct. So we are going to create a AWS account. We are going to help you to create your own AWS account, and each and every topic, whatever I'm mentioning, it's with the hands-on. So there are exercise, there are demo within the class, and same thing you're going to repeat, and we will even share the steps as. Okay, now in terms of course topics, now whatever I'm taking you through, that is high level from the certification point of view, but actual course content we already have published in the Visualpath portal. So these are the topic. So these are in detail. So whatever we are showing in the Visualpath portal, so these are in detail. So this is consolidated domain wise, right? So if you example, if you go to introduction to cloud computing, so we will cover in detail these things, deployment model, and we even will add some additional courses like Linux, right? So which is not there in the AWS certification, but it is must when you get into the job perspective, right? So then each and every topic here you can go through. So then introduction part, identity, VPC part, Route 53, CloudWatch, all the storage services. So we discuss in detail, right? Now from the course point of view, so what we exactly target is, it's not just making you, get a certificate. Okay, to be honest, I will tell you, so even without going through the training, you can get your certificate nowadays. So there are a lot of, almost similar dumps are available. So if you just a buy hat, yeah, so you may not get a good marks, but at least you can pass the certification. It's not a really great deal at all. Okay. So, but the challenge is, what you achieve after getting the certification. So I'll tell you my own experience when we sit for interview panel. So when we ask for profile, right? So we will get a lot of profile for AWS. So maybe it's moment we, say we need some few 5 to 6 requirement. So we will get 100 plus profiles. But when we try to, ask the questions, okay, so in the initial 5 minutes as well, we will be able to make them whether they just prepared for certification or really they know about the AWS. So I can say out of 100, I can say around 70 profile will get just rejected in the first 5 minutes of interview. The reason is, there is a lot of hype in the market. There is a requirement for AWS and all. Because for that, everyone is getting the certification. Everyone is getting certificate just like that. People who don't have even basic understanding of infra, they will just take a certification and they say I'm a cloud certified. But so it doesn't mean that you will, you're the cloud expert. So you should know the hands-on very, very, in detail. Just with the theory, you cannot work on the cloud. So that is to be frank. So what we are trying to target is to do each and every hands-on and relate to the real-time use cases. For example, we have a one of the design here, how your application is getting hosted in the cloud, right? So for the normal a person who is understanding cloud, so it would be just one part of design, just having some EC2 instance and running, deploying the code and running it on the cloud. But it is not the cloud, right? So if you run it such way, of course, there are some customers who deployed it and it's got attacked in few months. So when you are deploying the cloud, it's required, well understanding how to design your, the perimeter network like VPC, how to create your the subnets, how to create a network traffic flow from one subnet to other subnet. What are the services to use like load balancer, and if you're using the load balancer, where to place in the design, right? And whether to use a public IP address on all the instances or not, how to divert the traffic in case if you are coming from the administrative traffic, in case if you're coming from the user traffic, right? So you should know more or less, in detail, your the design part. So then only it's really possible. Make sense? So that's something we are going to cover it. So we will give a the the hands-on. So we will run one real-time. In fact, there are 3 to 4 real-time application, which is pre-created application code. We will run it on the environment and we will see how it works. Right. So that is something targeting. So certification something I can assure you even without going through the training I'll make you passed. That is not a great. Yeah. So any questions? Anything wanted to clarify?
Yeah, one thing, Suresh here. Sorry for. So in the deployment strategy, like what you mentioned, we are going to deploy any some small application or something like that, right? So which deployment strategy are gonna take in this case? Like how you will deploy, like by using code pipeline
Okay.
or something like that?
See, in the certificate, yeah. So the deployment initially we do through the manually, like we will deploy over the EC2, we will deploy over containers, right? So we will deploy over normal S3. So in case of without servers, we say serverless. So there are a few patches we will deploy on the Lambda, right? Now, in terms of deployment process, yeah, so we can discuss about code pipeline, but that is something not targeted because that is generally comes under DevOps part,
DevOps.
right? Yeah. So, but we
Like
can
like
discuss in
now
theory
the
part, and I
deployment
can.
thing which you're talking about, it will be like normal simple deployment where we are just deploying in the S3 bucket, like where we'll be seeing the standard static web application, something like that, right?
That is correct. But I can take you through how it really happens, right? So now in the deployment, you can have a multiple approach. The one you can use AWS own DevOps tools, or you can go for the open source tools like Git or Jenkins and other the build pipelines, right? Or you can use own AWS services. So that we will discuss the difference, and I can give a reference and all. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
so DevOps something we are not really touching in detail because that itself around 35 hours.
I would say like not go with the DevOps perspective. Like we can go with the normal in the market standard like Git, and we are just pushing that code from their Git to some EC2 instance, like where we can see the exact application how it works in the web application standpoint. That's something
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can discuss.
that we
Like,
can do that. Yeah, that we
yeah,
can do that. So we can do through the Jenkins because that is something widely used. Git and
yep,
Jenkins we can use and we can deploy it. Yeah, that's simple.
yep,
We can do that.
yep. Thank you.
Yep. Now these all on the course content. How it works. We are going to deliver the things. Now in terms of logistics, right? So each and every class, it's going to be recorded, and we will share the recording that you can get it through a Visualpath LMS. So you'll be getting the login, and you can get it through the LMS. The next thing, the course materials. So we have all customized course materials. There are references, you know, uh, mainly the preparation point of view or in terms of doing hands-ons. So that's something we will share through the classroom. So there is something called Google Classroom we use. So that Google Classroom access, we will give to you, right? So there, all the class materials are populated. I mean, as a topic we cover, the course content will be shared across. Yeah, for example, let's take AWS training like this. So all the course materials we will add in the classwork. So we go for each topic wise. So we'll add additional document whatever it's required, right? So there are projects we are going to deploy. So everything will be shared over, and this is kind of lifetime access, and you can access it from the browser. You can access it from the mobile. So there is an app for Google Classroom. So then there is a section called stream. So in case if any query you are coming across, after the class, so you can raise it. You don't need to wait till next class. So it can be resolved there and there. Yeah. So again, there was a question: can we get AWS console login? Now AWS console, yes. So answer your question, it is yes. Now how to get it? So we will help you to get AWS console or AWS login on your own name, and you can run your entire training almost zero cost. So you don't need to pay anything. So there is a free tier option in the AWS. Of course, there are costs here and there, but we will explain how to manage it. So you can make it with almost zero cost, or in the worst case, you can get maybe $5 to $10. So even you can get that credit back, by going through the AWS support model. We will discuss that, but we can make sure zero cost. You can run your lab live lab. Yeah, so there's another question in terms of job market for AWS. Yeah, now if you look at on the cloud point of view, so however there are a lot of competition in terms of cloud, but AWS is still market leader. Lot of customers still with the AWS, and a lot of customers are going towards AWS. Yeah, so other cloud like Azure is picking up, but Google and Oracle and all still they are far compared to these two clouds. But yeah, AWS is still the number one, and there are a lot of opportunities coming across now. The cloud understanding it's something default nowadays, so everyone should know the cloud. But you can take your career path, according to the number of experience you have. So if you're having experience like around 5 years, from 0 to 5 years, so you can put a profile like AWS engineer, right, or AWS DevOps engineer kind of. So if you're more than five, so you can put it like solution architect, right? So all technical architect kind of role, or there are some company have cloud architect, right? So there are a lot of openings, but the even if your experience is 10 plus, right? So you can get into solution architect role, but so there are a lot of people might be thinking, moment you say architect, you just need to design the things. No, when it comes to the cloud, the people expect you to do the hands-on. I mean, do the implementation. So even I do the implementation on daily basis. So we get involved on the design, we will get involved on discussion part, but we will also do the implementation because you must have the hands-on because that will only give the experience when you are designing and solutioning. Yeah, so domain three topics we are going to cover. So any questions, anything wanted to clarify, guys? Okay, perfect. So see, we have scheduled batch getting started. So generally we have batch, it takes 32 hours of time. It's almost 1.5 month. Okay, so it goes in the cycle. So one of the batch it's getting closed this week, and we are going to start a new batch from the Wednesday. It is IST, 7:30 a.m. Okay, so it's going to be IST 7:30 a.m. And yeah, so if someone interested, so you can think of enrolling, and you can share your information with the visual path, and we will be starting the batch on Wednesday. Yeah, so it would be daily 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours. Even sometimes we will extend to 3 hours because there are a lot of labs, and it is weekly 4 days, right? So it's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, right? So we won't take small class like half an hour, 1 hour, and all because when we do a lot of hands-on, we need to have extended class. There's the reason. Yeah. So, but roughly, yeah. So in 1.5 hour, we'll be able to complete everything. Okay. So make sense? Any questions, guys? Perfect. If no questions, we will join back as per your response. So thanks for your time. Take care. Be safe.